So today, we are diving deep into a huge question. What is our real, actual power to create change in the world around us? And you know what? We're going to see how the answer starts, not out there with politics or protests, but right inside our own heads.
I mean, that sounds like some kind of philosophical riddle, right? Can a single thought change the physical world? But the answer is a huge yes. And it's not magic, it's just biology and physics. The link between your mind and the material world is so much more direct than you probably think.
Okay, so let's start with the one system we have total immediate access to, our own bodies. This isn't some abstract theory. This is the physical reality you are living in right now, this very second.
And this brings us to a really cool idea called downward causation. Sounds kind of complicated, but the concept is super simple. Your thoughts, they aren't just these weightless, invisible things floating around. They are real patterns of activity in your brain. And these high-level patterns have the power to literally direct the low-level chemistry of your body. Here's the perfect example. Look at the HPA axis. The second you have a stressful thought, like you're worried about a work deadline, that mental event kicks off a very real, physical chain reaction. Your brain tells your adrenal glands to start pumping out cortisol, the stress hormone. Just like that, a thought, an idea, has physically changed the chemistry of your body. And you know, it's not a one-way street at all. There's this amazing feedback loop happening constantly. Physical stuff, like sunlight hitting your skin or the sound of ocean waves, that causes changes in your mental state. We call that bottom-up causality. But at the exact same time, your mental interpretation of that beach scene as relaxing causes a downward cascade, releasing feel-good chemicals like dopamine. The big takeaway here is that your internal state is an active, incredibly powerful force in your physical reality.
So, okay, if we accept that our thoughts can change our physical reality, then we have to ask an even deeper question. Why should we even bother to act? What's our philosophical reason for doing anything at all?
Well, this is where we need to totally reframe the idea of suffering, or dukkha. Just forget the idea that it's some kind of punishment or a personal flaw. Think of it like a system alarm. Feelings like anxiety, stress, frustration, that is urgent, actionable data. It's a prediction error, basically screaming at you that your mental map of how things should be does not match the reality of how they are. And that alarm isn't there for you to just put up with. It's a signal that a system is broken and you need to fix it. So when that alarm starts blaring, we're faced with a really basic choice. On one side, you've got what's called the great action, and that's just radical responsibility. You see the error, you hear the alarm, and you immediately start the work of fixing the system. But on the other side, there's what you could call the escape clause. This is when we see a problem and just defer responsibility to some outside force. You know, it's in fate's hands, or it's all part of a bigger plan. That way of thinking leads to doing nothing, and it absolutely guarantees the system stays broken. And this, right here, is the bottom line. When a system's alarm goes off, it's designed to trigger a response from the agent who's right there, on the ground. The system's only way of fixing itself is you. The process has assigned the solution to the localized agent, you. That responsibility falls squarely on your shoulders. All right, so now that we've established that we have the power and the responsibility to act, let's turn to the absolute loudest prediction error alarm ringing in our society right now, the rise of AI.
You see, the rise of artificial intelligence isn't just some tech event that we're watching from the sidelines. It is a choice, a massive one. This technology can create a level of abundance we can barely even imagine, with very little human effort. So the critical question becomes, how are we going to structure and distribute all of that abundance?
Now, the sources lay out three very different paths forward. The first one, the oligarchic trap, is kind of the default path. It leads to mass unemployment, instability, the whole shebang. Then you have the other extreme, the neo-feudal state, which is basically a dystopian nightmare of total control. But right there in the middle is the leisure society, a managed, positive future where the benefits of AI are shared and humanity is freed up to pursue purpose beyond just working a job. The difference between these futures isn't the tech, it's our collective choice and our action.
So if we want to dodge those bad outcomes and actually build that positive future, how do we do it? We can't just sit around and wish for it. We need a clear, actionable plan.
And here it is, a three-part blueprint. Step 1 is personal resilience. We build that by investing in the skills AI can't just replace, things like creativity, care, and critical thinking. Step 2 is economic resistance. We fight back against centralization by shifting our focus and our money to local, community-owned things, like local food systems.
And finally, step 3 is civic reclaiming. We take back our systems by advocating for public ownership of our digital world and for policies that make sure survival isn't tied to having a 9-to-5 job.
Now, I know some people might see all this civic action as being kind of aggressive, but this quote just reframes it perfectly. When a system is actively causing harm, doing nothing just lets that injustice continue. So the choice isn't really between peace and violence anymore. It's about choosing to engage in a necessary, just defense of our own future against systemic harm.
So, after all this work, this personal, economic, and civic action, what's the world we're actually trying to build? What does the finish line even look like? The goal is managed abundance. It's a society where the unbelievable efficiency of AI is harnessed for everybody. And look, this isn't about being lazy. It's about decoupling human worth from economic output. It frees us up to pour our time and energy into the things that actually make us human, creating art, building strong communities, learning, and just plain caring for each other. This is a totally achievable goal.
And on a cosmic level, what we're really doing is contributing negoentropy. It's a scientific term for creating order and structure in a universe that naturally wants to fall into chaos. Every single time we solve a problem or build a strong community or create something beautiful, we are literally pushing back against decay. We're creating a net positive for the entire system.
So, we end up right back where we started, but hopefully with a whole new sense of clarity. We've seen that you have the power to change physical reality, starting with your own body. We've reframed suffering as a call to action, a signal that something needs to be fixed. And we've laid out the most urgent error of our time and a blueprint to fix it. So the only question left is the one on the screen. The system is waiting. What error will you correct?